Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the Friday Club, brought to you by Campus 24 and in association with our good friends at AMKIS. I'm back, Dominic Moon from Metropolis Education, and I am your host of our fortnightly interviews, bringing you words of wisdom, I said, help, advice, fun and laughter from some of the biggest names in the admissions and marketing arena. Today's guest is a very experienced director of admissions, having worked in the independent boarding school sector now for nearly 10 years. Before this, her early career began teaching in West Africa, which quickly underscored that being at the front of a classroom was not the future for her, very honest. However, following time working in corporate and personal finance and a successful career in professional recruitment and executive search, she found herself back in schools, this time leading the admissions, marketing and development functions. She travels extensively and believes strongly in self-built trips. She's also a huge advocate of building personal relationships and establishing a strong personal brand. She ensures that a commercially driven approach is brought to excellent customer service. There's some buzzwords right there. And the delivery of outstanding outcomes for parents, students, and the school. Put simply, people trust people. Ooh, that's nice. And it is essential that at every level, a personal, honest, and ongoing relationship is built at all times. Welcome, Vicky McAllister.
Thank you, Dom.
How are you doing? All right?
I'm all right.
Good. Right, so I didn't say there, you're at Tettenhall College, which is northwest of London, everybody. You're Director of Admissions and External Relations, correct?
That's right, otherwise known as Head of Stuff.
Head of Stuff. We could also say some other words in there as well, I'm guessing. Right. Now, I said in the intro, you're an advocate of overseas DIY, and as of Sunday, because I know this from our Zoom sessions, that you had completed your 41st flight of the academic year. Now, I think this just really highlights how prolific you are at approaching the international markets by yourself, I might add. And it's not for everybody, you know, that has to be said as well. So people don't feel bad that you're not doing 41 flights. Can you tell me sort of why? How, and there's a number of stages, but let's start with why you do that and how you do that, please.
Okay, well, just to clarify, I have a very nice home life, so I'm not running away from something. But I do genuinely believe it, as we said at the beginning, this job is about people, and if you can't get yourself in front of people who are preparing to send their kids literally halfway around the world, the job becomes much harder. It's less personal. I think it's the chances of work being less successful are much higher. I enjoy it. So you say it's not for everybody, and it isn't. I am a complete loon doing the amount I do and schlepping around the world with the amount of luggage that I do. And I do take hard copy brochures with me as well. I know. But it's just really rewarding. And I think where you don't necessarily have a school that has a huge brand name, you need to go and explain it to people and get them to buy in. And I think ultimately it works. Not every time, not in every single place. You've got to build it up. You don't strike lucky every time, but I think if it didn't work, I wouldn't keep doing it.
No. Okay, so you said a couple of things there, which I thought was interesting. The first thing was, you know, for those people who are still wondering where Tettenhall College, when I said northwest of London, I was talking on the Shropshire-Staffordshire border. And if you don't know where that is, we're just going to say
Wolverhampton.
It's Wolverhampton. I'm just trying to avoid the Wolverhampton, quite frankly. So not a big, I mean, you're quite strong in your area. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But overseas, I mean, people couldn't find it on a map if they had it all day to try and find it on a map, I suspect. So you decide that you go to them.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't work every time, right? So tell me about how many times does it take to work? Or does it ever, have you still got plates spinning in countries from years ago that still aren't working?
No, I wouldn't say we're still spinning plates years on. But I think where I say it doesn't work, you don't always get that immediate return. And some of it, you can't just always come back with a suitcase of registration forms and hope that, the governors are going to be, thrilled every single time. But I think it's knowing and learning, actually, when you go on these trips, what makes a successful trip. And for me, it's generally where you've done a whole mix of different activities. So meeting agents, meeting prospective parents, meeting current parents, meeting alumni. I do some events. I'm not entirely, well, I'm a bit fair-phobic, but not totally. I think the right fairs are great, about brand building, allowing you to network. I particularly like agent-oriented events, if I'm honest. I think they're probably much more effective than parent-facing events. I think that I struggle a little bit with those, but if you strike lucky, that's brilliant. So yeah, you've just got to just be realistic, I think, about what one trip's going to achieve.
And you said, so you take a load of brochures, you're seeing alumni, you're really top and tailing the experience as well, so no stone unturned. That and you consciously go there not necessarily to recruit pupils, although that's very much part of the DNA, the end game. There are other things that you can do whilst there, and you judge yourself based on other KPIs, I suspect.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, we're just back from South America. We have got some registered students, and we've got a student who was with us for a short period, is now going to stay for a longer period, having met parents in country. So that we can tick the immediate return box. But there were loads of things that happened in terms of us establishing us as a school. But actually, in some parts that we've been to, British boarding is just not a thing. American boarding is.
Yeah.
Canadian boarding is. Australian boarding is, but British boarding isn't. So that was also really interesting to sort of learn that there's a big open goal there.
You're not there to grow boarding, you're there to steal it from the others.
Yeah, kind of.
You go
it's a really small market.
Yeah, but when you say small, though, I mean, we only want, come on everybody, we only want one. If I had a pound. Yeah, okay, interesting. Okay, so I know where you've been because we know each other quite well, but how do you decide on a market? You just throwing darts at a globe and then just seeing please tell me you are.
No, I'm not. No, not a globe. My son's got a bedroom wall that is actually the entire globe on a big mural, which is quite nice because I am away a lot, so he can track me around the world, which is nice. No, there is some strategy there. So a big one for us is the diversity of the boarding population, partly in terms of nationality, but a big one for us at the minute is language mix. So we've actually got really good population of Spanish-speaking students from Spain, Mexico, Peru, Chile, but obviously they all speak Spanish. So we're trying to look at other language opportunities and mix it up that way as well.
Right. Do you do a little bit of research before you get there? Do you got your feelers out trying to figure out where it is? Because you can't just rock up, can you? You have to do some.
No, you can't. I mean, that trip that we've just done was probably about 6 months in the making.
Right. Okay.
So initial conversations with people we might want to meet, people who could introduce us to other people. So even though they might not be the people who could get us in front of kids, they knew people who could. School visits, friends of friends in other countries introducing us to people in their network. So that takes ages. And I think that's one of the things that is really hard to explain to people who don't do the job is actually the trip itself is only a really small part of the doing the do. It's the planning of the trip is such a huge undertaking, and trying to do that. And I know when we have our weekly Zoom calls, when you listen to how busy everybody is and how many plates everybody's spinning and how many people they're trying to manage, and then you're planning trips and trying to make sure they're effective, that's huge. And that's before you've done all the follow-ups when you get back.
It is like an iceberg, though, isn't it? The bit that the common room and everybody else in the parents sees, just you going away, taking the flight, coming back.
Yeah.
But underneath that is actually the prep, but also the huge amounts of follow-ups that the follow-up is critical, is it not, to success?
There's no point in going if you're not going to follow up both whilst you're in country. So I'm a big believer that if you haven't contacted someone within 24 hours of meeting them, you're at real risk of the meeting not having landed effectively, even if it's just, it was brilliant to meet you, let's keep in touch. You know, it can be as simple as that. WhatsApp's fabulous for that now, because you can just, you know, even if it's a thumbs up or a smiley face, or it doesn't, and actually then it's lighthearted and it's informal and people feel more comfortable. So you can actually do these things quite quickly, but it is really important that you do it swiftly. Of course, by the time you get back, you get pulled into 1,000,001 things, and following up's really hard.
Yeah. Okay. Let's not all start using the thumbs up emoji, please, because that'll be like a tsunami of thumbs up. Okay. That's interesting. The other thing that you said, what we said in the bio rather, was about personal relationships and people trust people, and I think that's really, really important, because it's your own personal brand and reputation that sort of follows you around. Are you one of those people? And feel free to say no, this one, because this is a little bit off piste, but you have a relationship with agents and people, stakeholders, let's say stakeholders. Does it really matter what school you're at, because they are trusting you? And I've heard this with other people, so I don't want to spoon feed this to you, but the trust is with you, not with the school.
Unfortunately, the answer is you're right. Yeah. It goes back to the whole thing. It's about a relationship, and we've all got schools that are beautiful and look great in the brochures, and we all do lots and lots of things that are very similar and all of that stuff. But the difference, the unique factor, our USPs are the people, I think, when it boils down to it. And when you look at the reputation that some of the people who've done this 2-3 times as long as I've been doing it have got, and it's their name before you hear the school name. And I think that's really powerful. And yeah, I'm continuing to work with people I started working with 10 years ago in another school, because they trust me. And that's lovely, but it's also quite a big responsibility as well.
Yeah, I suppose if the school does excellent pastoral care, small class sizes, can't believe I'm saying these things, then it's really great. Yeah, it's just dealer's choice from that point on, isn't it? I mean, there's a cohort of schools, let's say 200 or 300 schools, who pretty much do the same. Some year GCSE years are good, A-level years are good, and a couple of years later you might have a bit of a naughty bunch going through, and it might not work in your favor, but essentially you're just a good all-round school. And I suppose it's hard for an agent or anybody to differentiate. And if they trust you and you happen to be a B school rather than A school now, you'll make it work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And particularly where you're hoping that people will introduce you to their friends, cousins, all the word of mouth stuff, all the alumni stuff. That's personal. That's nothing to do with brochures and QR codes and all of that. They want somebody's phone number. They want to have a chat. They want
a thumbs up emoji. So talk about this brand, the sort of your own brand. How do you go around, or how should other people go around, I don't know, boosting it, I suppose, making it worth more, making it more valuable, either digitally or physically? What's your process?
Okay, well, I'm not as prolific as Mr. LinkedIn, but I do.
You got a mention, brilliant.
He's got to get a mention. But I use LinkedIn a lot. You know, I've got more than 5,000 followers. And yeah,
I need to look how many I've got now. Feeling a bit out of it.
I think it was 5,034 when I last looked, but yeah, it's so I use it, but I used it professionally before I came into this job. Right. And I do think there's loads of things that I still do that I used to do in a corporate setting. So I use LinkedIn as a business tool. Absolutely. It isn't just a case of putting your CV and sharing your school posts. I use my LinkedIn really differently to the school LinkedIn. And can be a bit more personal and put things on there that's more about, I guess, what I'm doing on behalf of the school, obviously, but it's kind of me, whereas obviously the school one is the corporate stuff. And then, yeah, I use WhatsApp massively, agents and parents, current, prospective. So that helps a lot.
Stop. Quick question.
Mm.
Whose phone is it? Who owns the phone? Is it the school phone? Is it your phone? Got to. Okay. Just want to make sure, because some people out there would have gone, well, it's my phone. I'm not going to allow it. I need the school phone. They won't give me one. But it's a good tool, right? I mean, if
anybody who hasn't got a work phone who does this job needs to go and sit outside the head's office until they've got one. Genuinely.
All right, you heard it here. Okay, all right. So you got your LinkedIn. I've just found out I've got 1,600. So I'm only a third. I'm a little minnow by comparison. So I need to up my game particularly. So LinkedIn.
Yep.
And you put, so I've seen it on there because we're LinkedIn. So I've seen all the things that you do, and everybody comments on it, and that goes to agents as well. And then the WhatsApp, then it's just, do you try and accelerate them onto WhatsApp quickly because it has that nice informal approach, and you've also then got their mobile.
Yeah, and LinkedIn messaging as well, personal messaging on LinkedIn. Okay. So if I'm going to go on a trip, I look at all the vague connections, either really strong connections or loose ones for a particular country or particular city. Usually, so a lot of it's city-based rather than country-based. And I could easily send 200 messages before a trip saying, I'm going to be in town, can I meet you, what do you think? And often it's a similar message, just take it a little bit. But if you can fire those off personally and they hit somebody's inbox, they're much more likely to reply to you than comment on a LinkedIn post.
Is that a premium LinkedIn account?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because I think might need to have a premium LinkedIn account for some of that. Okay.
Yeah, you can message people that you're connected to. So that's about building your connections. But yeah, it's again, all of these things are tools of the job. So try and get them, definitely.
I know everybody kind of says they see LinkedIn's David Milner and all this thing going, we really should be. It's two shout outs. We really should be doing more. But also, it's a bit. Sometimes you're doing it more behind the scenes. It's a bit ghastly as well, a bit ugly sometimes. It's like, look at what we're doing. It's like,
and I sort of go through phases. I sort of put quite a few bits on, and then I go quiet for a while. So I'm not one of those people who do it daily.
No.
A couple of times a week at absolute most. So because I think it can become noise as well. You have actually got to have something interesting, hopefully, to say or say you're doing.
You find yourself muting people or something.
A bit.
Certain people. Yeah. Okay, right. Listen. Now you were in recruitment, and I think this is quite an interesting bit I've kind of thought of here is so recruiting staff at the moment. So you're out about doing all your thing, and you have to have people back at base to make sure that the wheels keep turning. Good staff, rather than just staff. Although finding staff full stop is hard. You know what it's like in the recruitment market at the moment, and many of our schools out there are looking for staff and banging their head against a brick wall. How, as an executive recruiter in the past, what advice would you give to people about it? How would you go about helping them? Drawing a straighter line between the vacancy and the candidate seems to be a real issue.
Well, if you're looking for admission staff, look at the recruitment world. If you've got genuinely, I mean, there's so many people out there who've got recruitment jobs that have got skill set immediately ready. Might not be school based, but they are doing the job of a recruiter. So you're kind of halfway there. So I definitely encourage people to do that. For me, when recruiting, don't go through big formal recruitment processes where everybody has to submit an application and then come in for a first round interview and then talk to them on the phone for 5 minutes. And do you like them? Do they like you? Do they sound like they could be sensible and worth investing time in? And if they do, brilliant, then start something a bit more formal. But to be honest, I generally do everything with an initial phone call or WhatsApp or Zoom call before I ever meet them face to face, because recruiting takes so much time and it's just painful when you've got to sit and give somebody 20-30 minutes just to be polite when you know it's not going to go anywhere. So don't make it any harder than it already is. It's really hard already. So do loads of kind of initial, are they interested, am I interested, things first.
Yeah, because the marketing one's slightly different, but the admissions one is is basically a pure sales role. So you don't need a 2-1 from Cambridge. You know, you just need experience of life and how to talk to people and have different things. Correct? Or am I?
Totally. Yeah, you need people. You need people who are good at talking to people and who like doing it. If they don't like chatting and they're not chatty and they can't engage with people and build rapport, then don't bother going any further down the line. Even if they've got a first-class degree from Cambridge, it's useless. I'm sure they're brilliant, but not in this job. If you've got someone who's going to hide behind an email every day, that's just not going to work.
No.
So yeah, it's got to be somebody who enjoys it, because it's flipping hard work. So yeah,
It never used to be this hard, did it? You've been doing it 10 years. It wasn't this. Wasn't as hard as this. I mean, it was tough, but it seems to have gone to a whole other level.
I think so. Yeah, it's definitely more than it was. So it's really busy, but it's also, I think you can achieve more than you used to achieve, and it's still not enough.
Yeah. Have you got over to ChatGTP yet? Have you started using?
I'm terrified by it. Absolutely terrified by it. Basically, because I don't understand it, and I need to go and spend 3 hours with Andy Kemp, and he can
just find Dr. Andy. He'll sort you out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but no, I'm really old school. As I say, I take my brochures around in big suitcases. So the prospect of AI is just way beyond me at the minute. But
you do the thing that accelerates it is you pick up the phone, right? I mean, that's the thing. So an inquiry comes in, it's like 24 hours later. Here's all your answers, you know, phone and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Because there's a big sign up in our admissions office that says, "Don't do anything until you've picked up the phone."
Okay.
Because they can tell you something on the phone. For a start, you know, it's lovely that they've made an inquiry, but if they can't afford independent education and they're not kind of going to fit the bursary route, then you can have 30 minutes of your working day just lost to some lovely people. But
34 is the average number of interactions with a parent from the inquiry to actually the start date. So if they're all 30-40 minutes, you're going to be stuck with 100 parents coming in. It's going to cause you a lot of problems. Let's just flip over to the other part of your job, which was the director for external relations. Now, I laugh and joke about it because I'm from the area where the school is, so it sits on the Shropshire-Staffordshire border. Arguably, most people couldn't find it. The challenge of geography is real, and I suspect that's probably leads on to some of your behaviour in terms of how you go about doing your job. But what's the strategy for a school that, you know, people even 3 miles away haven't heard of? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, it's been really interesting since we've been here, because we've got this, it's beautiful, our school, but we've got this great big listed wall all around 35 acres of campus, and lots of people drive past the gate and tell me that they've driven past it for 30 years and never set foot in the place. So lots of event-based work that we're doing, so trying to get as many people on the school campus as possible. So we've our annual firework display now, we had 3,000 people at in November. We've got this huge event week we're doing this summer because it's our 160th, so some of that's community facing. It's funny because I look at the work that sort of the day schools up the road are doing, and they have to sort of market to like 4 postcodes, and we're marketing to the world. So that's really tricky, because trying to slice and dice a budget that is not endless and is not particularly big when flights cost more than they ever did, and you know, it's just really hard. So I tend to go with gut, and I'm still trying lots of different things. I'm desperately trying to get away from print advertising as much as I can, but then I get the old, but if the school down the road are in, we have to be in, and that's really hard.
Don't fall for it. It's just
I know. But loads more digital, and I'm not a digital guru at all. I'm just a run-of-the-mill personal social media user like most people, and I'm having to really learn every week, you know, how to work smart with the digital stuff, because you can sink an awful lot of money into very fancy looking digital plans, but I'm really feeling my way with it still.
No, that's very nice of you to admit that live on air. Okay, I'm similar to you, but you have got 3 times many followers on LinkedIn, so I think I'm more the idiot. Okay, I just want to talk about something else, which I know that you do, about the retention. So we know it's 7 times more expensive to recruit than it is to keep. So I don't think anybody's surprised by that. Can you tell us, please, about the retention strategy you have? What's it look like? What's the day-to-day? How do you continue to connect with your current, God, I'm going to say it, customers, right? Current customers.
Well, they are, yeah. And that's both the kids and the parents, actually. So some of it's old school, traffic lighted spreadsheets for year groups, particularly the transition year groups. We're a lot better than we used to be at sort of key heads of sections and heads of particular areas taking much more responsibility now for doing that tracking, and as much as anything, waving the red flag when somebody's either, you know, doing the obvious things like going for a taste a day, or, you know, those sorts of things, or even a bit earlier, hopefully, where they're grumbling about something but it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It just gives you the warning signs that they're probably thinking about a move. So we do a series of parent suppers each year, so we try and hit about 3 or 4 year groups every year, so they invited in. It's the advantage of being a smaller school. I'm not sure in a school of 1,000 plus it would be as manageable, but we've got what, 500, 520 at the minute. So we meet with a year group over the course of about 3 evenings, have a really nice dinner with them. And it is amazing what a glass of wine does to getting parents to tell you what they really think. So yeah,
food and booze, baby, food and booze. So
booze, yeah.
so out of a year group, then what's the uptake of that in terms of because you can't just do it for everybody. It's a budgeting issue as well, more than anything else. You put a 3-course meal on.
But not everybody wants to come, and we invite everybody. Everybody gets invited. But it's not everybody's bag, and that's fine. So you try and seek those people out differently. You know, do you fancy having a coffee, and, you know, all those sorts of things. I try and be out of my office wherever I can, and I'm in the country, but I do the prep school gate some mornings, and just happen to hang out there for 20 minutes and say hello to people and do those little things. Of course the head does it, the head of prep does it, but I do it as well, because I think you just get a sense of who's saying what, and the tone and the atmosphere of things. So that's important as well. So yeah, and as soon as you, sorry,
you get some classics from your meals when somebody's had a little bit too much of the alcohol and they kind of let the cat out of the bag or something.
Oh yeah.
You said, oh yeah, and
there is one in particular, but I can't share that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, you can't even tiptoe around the edge. So you've had some good intelligence anyway. You've got some good knowledge. So it might be a good idea for some people out there to think about that. And have you physically saved parents who are leaving and that kind of stuff?
Without doubt.
So it pays for the meal.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it does. Look, you could do the same over a cheese and wine. It doesn't have to be a 3-course meal. You know, it could be a barbecue. It could be, but there is something about sitting down with people where over the course of a couple of hours you do get to know them. And I think actually that's the key thing. It's part of it's how do they feel, what's worrying them, all that, but that kind of comes afterwards. Just get to know them. And people like to talk about themselves.
We do.
They do. And then our parents, and you know, are no different to that. So you learn an awful lot. But it's hard, and I'm not going to lie, it's really hard work, because, you know, the sign of a good evening is they don't want to go home, which is brilliant, except on a Tuesday when it's 11:30 and you're still there. That's a bit of a killer. So yeah. So
well, it's working. So that's a really hot tip, that retention, isn't it? Those just continuing to understand that your customers are still your customers, even though they're already in and they're paying, all the rest of it. Just continue. And 3,000 people at a bonfire night.
Yeah.
Just get him in the gates, make him feel the love, right? The TC love.
Absolutely. Feel the love, and hopefully they go home having a really, really good time and tell their friends, and yeah, it's a nice thing to do. And you know, as well, for our current families, it's another retention thing. They're coming and they're having a lovely family evening out.
Yeah.
So it's good fun. It's good fun.
In regards to the traffic light system, who are the people who you recognise that there's a wobble taking place? Have you got a formal structure where that's your year, you're doing that, and everybody goes to you if they see a wobble, or is it kind of, I don't know?
I wish it was as structured as that. It's a bit more intuitive. It depends who it is and what the wobble is. So you sort of have to have a chat. Often we have an SLT and an extended SLT with slightly different people around the table, and we'll put the traffic lights. It's a regular agenda item, so we look at that, and then it sort of depends. We go around the table and say who's going to be the best person to either give them a call or have a chat or do that sort of thing. So we do, the formal processes are all well and good, but it's not very personal. So sometimes you have to sort of find a way of segueing in and getting under the skin of why have they gone for a taster day sometimes.
Yeah, and I suppose with the traffic light system, it's not necessarily about, it's more about their own health and well-being, and the consequence of them being unhappy, whatever that may be, is the business ramifications of that. So because we don't want to sort of ignore the fact that if there's people having a wobble and they have TV, then it's a pastoral issue first, and then it eventually becomes a business issue. Interesting. Just a quick question. 41 flights. Are we turning left or are we turning right?
Mainly right.
You had a pause.
Mainly.
You went left at one point, did you?
When it's very, very long and I'm working 3 hours after I get off the plane, yes.
I don't know, everybody turning left, lucky dinker.
But not very often, I promise you.
No, yeah, okay. Well, no. we can always call you. We'll call you our pilot from now on. You're going the other direction to the rest of us. Okay, right. Believe it or not, we've hit our time, and we're in danger of going over our time. But I've still got a few questions that I need to ask you because it's part of the quick fire round. Please don't shock me like Bish did a couple of weeks ago. Okay. Right. Okay. So here we go. First off, who is your hero?
Okay, I really struggled with this one because it's a really one. So I asked my little girl Lydia, who was her hero, and she said Malala Yousafzai. So I'm sticking with her because she's pretty wise. So we'll go with that one. Okay,
you copped out there. If you could live anywhere, as you're in Wolverhampton, I'm hoping you're going to say Wolverhampton, but if you could live anywhere, where would it be?
Probably in a beautiful part of Kenya. I lived and worked in Africa for a while, and I never feel more relaxed than when I'm in Africa.
Okie dokie. Wow,
maybe not Lagos, but
yeah, there's horses because be careful. Biggest fear? Don't say flying.
No, I really like flying. This one's really soft, but not being able to get in touch with my kids. So it does get harder as they get older. People say, "Oh, does it get easier as they get older?" But no, that's just not big. There are days where it's really hard to fit the call in, and that's my biggest fear, is going to bed and not having been in touch.
Yeah. Okay, that's nice. Beach or snow?
Beach.
Okay. Karaoke song?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
You just want to get everybody involved so you cover your singing. Like it. Have you got a nickname?
Well, I used to. When I was recruiting, I was Macca. For 10 years, Macca. Yeah, there were 4 Vickies in my division. So we each had a nickname. So even my godson still calls me Macca.
Brilliant. I love that. We'll see if we can make that one stick. If you went back in time, where would you go?
Oh, not very far away, a beach in Zanzibar.
Back in time?
Back in time?
Yeah.
Like an era?
Yeah.
Oh, roaring 20s.
Okay. A bit of the Charleston. That was that a couple of weeks ago, that one as well. What is the one thing you'll never do again? Travel
to Timbuktu overland hitching. It's probably the most stupid thing I've done in my entire life. I was 22 and very silly.
Yeah, you're 22. It doesn't really matter, does it? You can do anything.
Yeah, but I was very nearly not 23. So.
Okay. Well, that's a whole other program.
Yeah.
Right, Vicky, I really enjoyed that. Got some really good nuggets there, actually. I'm just a bit jealous of your LinkedIn following. I need to up my game. The personal brand. You are a personal brand, folks out there, and it does move with you. So continue to do that. The diversification of nationality is very important to Vicky. Retention, the meals and the bonfires and the standing at the gates. Maybe one people out there should stand at the gates as well and just talk to your customers and look after them. And every now and again, she turns left. So I'm very jealous again. So thank you very much. Vicky McAllister, Tettenhall College, west of London and slightly further north. Thank you so much for joining us on the Friday Club. Folks, that's it for a couple of weeks. Got another barnstorming guest then. So happy Easter to everybody out there. And we'll see you again very soon.